Have you ever felt the weight of making decisions that impact not just yourself, but everyone around you? The kind of leadership that doesn't come with a badge or a title, but with the quiet responsibility that lingers in your mind like a whisper in the wind. Leadership, true leadership, is not about standing at the front of the line or being the loudest voice in the room. The most profound leaders are often unseen, moving quietly, shaping outcomes without ever drawing attention to themselves. This is the power of leadership from the shadows, a power rooted in discipline, foresight, and an almost mystical ability to influence without force. Picture, if you will, an ancient battlefield. The armies are lined up, restless and eager to charge. But the general, the one who holds true power, is not the one shouting commands from the front lines. Instead, he stands in the background, observing, calculating every possibility. He knows the terrain, the strengths and weaknesses of both his men and his enemies, and most importantly, he knows himself. Before the battle even begins, victory is already in his mind. His strength doesn't come from physical might, but from his ability to move pieces on the board like a grandmaster in a game of chess. He commands with silence, with stillness, and in this stillness lies his true power. In the same way, our lives are not so different from these ancient battlegrounds. The battles we fight may not be with swords and shields, but with decisions, challenges, and obstacles that seem insurmountable. Yet, the principles remain the same. The leader who wins is the one who knows when to act and when to wait, when to push forward and when to retreat. But this wisdom comes from discipline, a self-control so strong that it becomes almost invisible. Discipline is not about rigidly following rules, it's about mastering yourself so completely that your actions flow effortlessly with the unfolding events around you. Let me tell you a story about a man who understood this silent power. He did not shout his way to success, nor did he force his will on others. Instead, he led by example, often in ways no one noticed until years later. When others were resting, he was working. When others were lost in distractions, he focused on the task at hand. His leadership was not visible, but it was felt. Every choice he made, no matter how small, was deliberate. He knew that the strength of a leader lies not in bold moves or grand gestures, but in the quiet discipline that underpins every decision. The ancient texts tell us that before you can lead others, you must first learn to lead yourself. This is the essence of true leadership. It begins with mastering your own thoughts, your own habits, and your own emotions. Can you stay calm when others panic? Can you remain focused when distractions pull everyone else off course? Can you choose patience when the world demands immediate action? These are the marks of a leader who commands not with words, but with presence. The greatest battles are often won before they are even fought. The general who spends hours planning, studying, and strategizing may seem inactive to the untrained eye, but in reality, he is preparing for the moment when he will strike. This is not laziness, it is wisdom. The leader who moves too quickly, without understanding the landscape, is doomed to fail. But the leader who waits, who listens, who observes, holds the real power. His mind is his strongest weapon, and discipline is the force that sharpens it. In life, we are all generals of our own battles, whether in business, in relationships, or in personal growth. The question is, how will you lead? Will you charge forward without thinking, or will you take a step back, look at the bigger picture, and move with purpose? The silent power of leadership lies in the latter, in the ability to remain grounded, focused, and disciplined, no matter how chaotic the world around you becomes. As you embark on your own journey of leadership, remember that it is not the loudest voice that commands respect, but the quiet strength that comes from within. True leadership, the kind that changes lives and moves mountains, is often unseen. It is not about forcing your will on the world, but about aligning your will with the flow of life itself. Discipline is your foundation, and with it, you will learn to lead not just others, but yourself. And in leading yourself, you will discover the silent power that can transform your entire world. As you listen to the next 7 minutes of this audiobook, You will uncover insights so profound that they have the power to shift the course of your life forever, if only you are willing to embrace them. Chapter 2. The Dance of Discipline, a Life of Consistency. Discipline is a force that moves through time like the slow, steady beat of a drum. Its rhythm, though often unnoticed, guides the lives of those who dare to listen. Imagine a warrior standing at the edge of a battlefield, not with swords drawn, but in deep contemplation. His greatest battle is not with the enemy that stands before him, but with the inner chaos that threatens to break his resolve. In that silence, he understands that discipline is not an act of aggression or control. It is the art of mastering oneself, of becoming the river that carves its way through the stone, not by force, but by consistent, unwavering flow. The disciplined individual is like this river. It doesn't rush to its destination. It moves with patience, with certainty, knowing that its course, though slow, will never be interrupted. Just as the river wears down the hardest rocks over time, so too does discipline shape the individual, removing the impurities of doubt, fear, and hesitation. What remains is pure, clear intention, a mind that knows its path, a heart that beats with purpose. In the art of war, discipline is paramount. Armies that lack discipline are like wild horses, unpredictable, scattered, and easily defeated. A leader without discipline cannot command respect, nor can they inspire loyalty. But discipline does not demand rigidity. It is a balance, a dance between firmness and fluidity. A wise leader knows that true discipline is not about enforcing rules upon others, but cultivating it within oneself. The warrior, like the leader, understands that the most powerful victories are those won over oneself. Picture a general watching the horizon, knowing that the enemy is close. His soldiers are restless, some afraid, some eager for battle. But the general remains calm. He does not allow the emotions of the moment to dictate his actions. Instead, he waits, silently observing, calculating. His discipline is his strength. He does not rush into battle because the world demands it of him. He knows that patience, combined with consistent effort, will always lead to the right moment. Discipline gives him the power to control his fate. In our modern lives, we often think of discipline as something rigid, something that restricts us. But this is a misunderstanding. Discipline is not about depriving yourself of freedom. It is about giving yourself the freedom to achieve what you truly desire. It is the ability to remain focused on your goal, no matter how tempting the distractions along the way may be. Whether in business, personal growth, or leadership, the disciplined mind is the one that succeeds. Consider the entrepreneur who, day after day, wakes up before the sun rises, not because he must, but because he understands that discipline is the key to his success. While others are sleeping, while others are distracted by fleeting pleasures, he is building, creating, and growing. His discipline is not a burden, it is his greatest ally. It allows him to take consistent, focused steps towards his vision, and over time, that vision becomes reality. In the battlefield of life, discipline does not mean forcing yourself to march in one direction without deviation. It means having the awareness to adjust your course when needed, but always maintaining the integrity of your journey. Just as a warrior adapts to the movements of his opponent, so too must we adapt to the changing circumstances of our lives. But adaptation without discipline is chaos. Discipline is what allows you to bend without breaking, to remain true to your purpose, even when the winds of change blow strong. In many ways, discipline is an invisible thread that weaves together all aspects of life. It is present in the smallest of tasks, in the quiet moments when no one is watching. It is the force that pushes you to write that extra chapter, to make that extra call, to continue building even when success seems distant. Discipline doesn't promise immediate rewards, its fruits are often delayed. But like the river that eventually reaches the sea, discipline always leads you to your destination. The disciplined individual doesn't need motivation. They do not rely on bursts of inspiration to carry them forward. Instead, they move with steady, deliberate action. They understand that progress, no matter how slow, is still progress. Each step, no matter how small, brings them closer to their goal. In this dance of discipline, there is no finish line. Discipline is not something you achieve and then abandon. It is a lifelong practice, a rhythm that becomes the soundtrack of your life. It is in the way you speak, in the way you act, in the way you treat others. Discipline shapes your character and molds your destiny. So, the question is not whether you possess discipline, but whether you are willing to embrace it, to dance with it, to allow it to become the guiding force in your life. For those who master the art of discipline, there are no limits. The world, like the battlefield, becomes a place of infinite potential, and every challenge becomes an opportunity to grow. Discipline is your path, your weapon, and your greatest ally on the journey to greatness. Chapter 3. Flexibility in Leadership, Adapting to the Unseen. Leadership is not about being unyielding. It is about knowing when to be fluid, when to bend, and when to hold firm. The leader who clings too tightly to their ideas, their strategies, their position breaks. But the one who moves with the wind, like the supple tree in the storm, survives and thrives. Think of the ancient warrior standing at the edge of battle. He is not rigid, nor is he too soft. He moves like water, flowing into every crack, seeping into the unguarded spaces of the enemy's defenses. Water has no shape, no fixed form, yet it is powerful enough to carve mountains. This is the essence of flexibility in leadership. In life, like in war, rigidity is often the greatest downfall. The enemy is always shifting, the battlefield always changing. The moment you lock yourself into a single plan, a single path, you lose sight of the broader picture. The world we live in is dynamic, alive, and constantly evolving, so too must be the mind of the leader. Flexibility is not a weakness. In fact, it is the highest expression of strength, for it allows you to adapt without losing your core. Imagine a river flowing through a valley. When it encounters a boulder, does it stop? Does it rage against the stone? No, it moves around it, effortlessly finding another path. But in time, that same river, through its persistence, will wear down even the largest rock. Flexibility is this quiet, persistent force. It doesn't announce itself with loud commands or sweeping gestures, but with subtle, effective actions that change the world in profound ways. The ancient masters of strategy knew that the key to winning any battle wasn't brute force, but the ability to read the ever-changing conditions and adapt. This is the mark of a true leader. When others become stuck in their ways, clinging to outdated methods, you must see the shifts happening beneath the surface. You must be willing to change direction when the winds no longer favor your sails. In the battlefield of business, relationships, and life itself, flexibility is the art of survival and growth. Too many leaders fall into the trap of thinking that once they have a plan, they must follow it without deviation. But the world does not care for your plans. The market will shift, competitors will evolve, people will change. If you fail to change with them, you are already lost. The adaptable leader understands that there are moments when firmness is required and moments when fluidity is the key to success. Think of the bamboo that bends in the storm but stands tall afterward, while the rigid oak is torn from its roots. Flexibility is not the absence of strength, but the recognition of when strength must take different forms. Great leaders have often spoken of the power of a flexible mind. It is the ability to think creatively, to see problems not as obstacles but as opportunities for innovation. When one door closes, the adaptable leader does not waste time mourning. They immediately begin searching for another door, or perhaps a window, or maybe they create an entirely new door themselves. Flexibility in leadership means you don't get stuck in the mud when the path forward becomes blocked. Instead, you find a new route that may be even more rewarding than the one you initially planned. This does not mean that a leader has no direction or goal. On the contrary, flexibility requires an even deeper clarity of purpose. Like the river, you must always know where you are headed, but be open to the idea that the path there will not always be straight. This is why true leadership requires both vision and adaptability. The vision gives you the destination, and adaptability helps you navigate the unpredictable terrain that lies between you and your goal. It is easy to lead when the path is clear, when there are no obstacles, no enemies, no challenges. But the real test of leadership comes when the ground shifts beneath your feet. Will you cling to your plan, forcing it to work even when it no longer serves you? Or will you adapt, shifting your strategy and moving with the flow of life? The true leader, the master strategist, knows that life is a game of constant motion. In this game, flexibility is not a mere tactic, it is the way. It is through adaptability that you can outmaneuver your challenges, whether in business, in personal relationships, or in your own internal struggles. To be a leader is to dance with uncertainty, to embrace change, and to turn even the most unexpected situations to your advantage. So, as you move through your own battlefield, remember the power of flexibility. Be like water, strong yet fluid, soft yet unyielding. In this lies the key to mastering not just leadership, but life itself. Adapt, and you will not only survive, you will thrive. Chapter 4. The Art of Strategic Silence, Leading Through Observation. In the stillness of the night, when the battlefield lies calm and quiet, the most profound wisdom arises. It's not in the noise of swords clashing or the cries of victory that the real battle is won. No, it is in the silence, in the quiet moments where the greatest strategies are born. There is a truth that only the observant leader knows sometimes. The most powerful move is no move at all. Think of a general standing atop a hill, overlooking his army, his enemies, and the vast landscape before him. His warriors are ready, the plan is set, but there's something within him that holds him back. Instead of charging forward, he waits. His mind is not clouded with impatience or ego. He knows that the longer he waits, the clearer the path will become. He studies the subtle shifts in the wind, the patterns of the clouds, the movements of his adversaries. In these small, almost invisible signs, he finds the truth. This is the power of strategic silence, the ability to lead not through action, but through observation. A leader who truly understands this principle realizes that observation is not passivity, it is active awareness. Silence is not the absence of sound, but the presence of insight. It is in this stillness that clarity emerges and the true course reveals itself. In life, many rush into decisions, driven by fear of missing out or a desire to control the outcome. But the wise leader knows that timing is everything. He does not act just because the world expects him to. He acts when the moment is right, when the unseen forces align in his favor. Like a masterful chess player, he anticipates his opponent's moves, seeing several steps ahead, but only makes his move when it will lead to certain victory. There's an ancient saying that the best battle is the one won without fighting. The leader who can win through strategic silence avoids unnecessary conflict and loss. He watches and waits, understanding that action, when timed correctly, can be as effortless as a single breath. Imagine you are at the helm of a business venture, eager to make your mark. Everyone around you is shouting advice, act now, seize the opportunity, push forward. But something inside you tells you to wait. You observe the market, you listen carefully to your intuition, you study the movements of your competitors. While they scramble and rush to capitalize, you stand still, gathering knowledge. And when the moment is right, you make your move, effortlessly surpassing those who acted in haste. This principle isn't limited to the battlefield or business, it applies to every aspect of life. In relationships, silence is a powerful tool. The most effective communicator is not always the one who speaks the most, but the one who listens the deepest. By truly hearing the words unspoken, by observing the emotions beneath the surface, you gain an understanding far beyond what is visible. The leader who practices strategic silence knows when to speak, but more importantly, when to listen. In the ancient texts, it is said that the wise leader never reveals his full plan, not even to his closest allies. This is not out of mistrust, but because he understands the value of mystery. The unknown keeps others on edge, guessing at his next move, while he remains calm and centered. Silence, in this sense, becomes a cloak of protection. It prevents others from predicting your intentions, giving you the upper hand. Consider the river flowing quietly through a valley. It does not announce its arrival, it simply moves, carving its path with persistence. It is this silent, patient flow that shapes the landscape, not the sudden flood. In the same way, the leader who acts with quiet precision leaves a lasting impact, far greater than those who rush loudly into battle. But silence is not merely a tactic, it is a state of being. It requires discipline, self-control, and an unwavering belief in your vision. The world is noisy, filled with distractions, opinions, and external pressures. The leader who masters silence is not swayed by these forces. He trusts his inner guidance, knowing that the answers come in the stillness, when the mind is clear and the heart is steady. To lead through observation is to understand that not every battle needs to be fought, and not every question needs an immediate answer. Sometimes the most powerful response is no response at all. It is in those moments of silence that true power emerges and the path ahead becomes clear. So, as you move forward in your journey, remember this: there is immense strength in stillness. The greatest leaders are those who know when to act and when to observe. In the silence, there is wisdom. In the stillness, there is power. And in your quiet moments of reflection, you will find the clarity to lead with purpose, precision, and undeniable strength. Chapter 5. Leading Without Fear. The Warrior Mindset. Fear. It's an emotion that has lived inside all of us at some point. It whispers in the quiet corners of our minds. It grows when uncertainty looms, and for many, it becomes the invisible chain holding them back. But what if I told you that fear, the very thing we spend so much time avoiding, could become one of the greatest teachers in your journey of leadership? To lead without fear is not to be reckless, it is to embrace life fully, with all its uncertainties, and to walk forward with the heart of a warrior, unshaken by what may come. Picture a battlefield, shrouded in mist. The air is thick, the enemy unseen, yet the general does not falter. He stands tall, not because he is unafraid, but because he understands that fear is simply a signal, not a master. In this life, as in war, we cannot control the wind or the storms that come our way, but we can control how we move through them. The warrior does not flee from fear, he moves through it, transforms it, and uses it to sharpen his strategy. Fear is not something to be eliminated. That is the first lesson. It is not a weakness to acknowledge it, rather, it is wisdom to understand it. Fear, after all, has been with us since the beginning of time. It has been a guide, warning of danger, urging caution. But the problem arises when fear is no longer just a guide but becomes the ruler of our actions. When we allow fear to dictate our decisions, we lose the very essence of leadership. True leaders walk into the unknown, not with blind courage, but with a calm acceptance that uncertainty is part of the path. Look at the ancient masters of strategy. They did not win battles because they had more men or better weapons. They won because they could see the whole field, the entire scope of the situation. They recognized that the battlefield was not just a place of physical combat, but a place where the mind must be stronger than any blade. One must anticipate, adapt, and, most importantly, never let fear cloud judgment. The wise general does not charge blindly into the fray, but neither does he retreat in the face of challenge. He uses fear as a compass, pointing out where his attention is most needed, and then moves forward with precision. In the world of business, the battlefield looks different, but the principles remain unchanged. Think of the entrepreneur standing at the precipice of a decision that could change everything. The stakes are high, and the outcome is uncertain. Fear would tell them to stay where they are, to cling to the familiar, to avoid risk. But the true leader knows that the greatest rewards lie on the other side of fear. They don't ignore the potential pitfalls. Instead, they calculate them, adapt to them, and move forward anyway. It is said that in war, the greatest victories are those won without a fight. The leader who masters fear understands this deeply. They realize that the mind is their greatest weapon, and that fear is simply a tool, a guide that points them toward what they must conquer within themselves. And in conquering fear, they do not just win battles, they transform their entire being. They move with clarity, unaffected by the noise of the world around them, and their leadership becomes a beacon for others who are lost in the fog of their own fears. This transformation from fear to fearlessness is not a one-time event. It is a daily practice, a discipline of the mind. Just as a warrior trains his body, a leader must train his mind to remain steady in the face of chaos. The external world may offer challenges, enemies, and obstacles, but the true war is always within. When you realize this, you understand that the greatest enemy you will ever face is not out there, it is within your own mind. And once you conquer that, there is no external force that can stand in your way. Now, let's return to the battlefield. The enemy approaches. The ground trembles beneath their advance, but the general stands firm. He does not tremble because he has already won the war within himself. His fear has become his ally, guiding him to the right moment, the right move. His mind is calm, and his decisions are sharp, and when the moment comes to act, he does so, not with hesitation, but with absolute certainty. Leadership without fear is not about the absence of fear, but about mastering it. It is about recognizing that the unknown is a part of life, and that every great leader must walk through the fog at some point. Chapter 6. Commanding Respect. The Subtle Art of Influence. Imagine a general on the battlefield, standing tall among his soldiers. He does not need to shout commands. His presence alone inspires confidence and devotion. His soldiers follow, not out of fear, but because they trust in his leadership, earned through his discipline, his strategic mind, and his calm in the face of adversity. This is the true essence of respect. It is not commanded, it is earned. In life, just as in war, the leader who seeks control over others will find only resistance. But the leader who seeks to understand, who guides without forcing, will command respect that cannot be broken. As the ancient masters have taught us, to influence others is not to overpower them. It is to align with their deepest desires, to understand their motivations, and to move in harmony with them. This is the subtle art of influence. Consider the wisdom of the ancient strategist, who once said, "Appear weak when you are strong, and strong when you are weak." He knew that true power lies not in displaying it openly, but in holding it quietly. The leader who understands this can influence others without them even realizing it. Influence, after all, is not about bending others to your will, it's about creating a space where they want to follow your path. Take, for example, the story of the merchant who led his competitors to believe he was failing. He dressed modestly, spoke little, and kept his ambitions close to his chest. His competitors grew complacent, thinking they had already won. But the merchant's quiet influence was at work, subtly guiding the market, building alliances behind the scenes. When the time was right, he struck securing deals and partnerships that no one saw coming. His influence had been growing silently all along, like roots beneath the surface, until one day it became an unstoppable force. This is the power of subtle influence, moving quietly, shaping outcomes, without ever needing to exert overt control. The greatest leaders throughout history have understood this truth. They command respect, not by demanding it, but by embodying the qualities that naturally inspire it: patience, wisdom, humility, and vision. But respect is not something given freely. It must be cultivated through discipline. The leader who is inconsistent, who fails to follow through on their word, will never earn the deep respect of others. It is in the small, everyday actions, the promises kept, the calmness under pressure, the humility in success, that respect is born. Think of the disciplined warrior who trains daily, even when no one is watching. His strength does not come from one great act, but from the accumulation of small, disciplined actions over time. When the moment comes for battle, he stands ready, not because of a single heroic effort, but because of his unwavering commitment to his craft. It is this same discipline that earns him the respect of his comrades. In the world of business, this same principle applies. A leader may make grand speeches or bold moves, but it is their consistency, their reliability, and their quiet determination that earn the respect of their team. The business leader who treats every deal, no matter how small, with the same level of care and integrity, builds a reputation that cannot be shaken. Their influence grows silently, and soon they find that others are drawn to them, seeking their guidance, their wisdom. But there is a deeper layer to this art of influence. The wise leader knows that influence is not about manipulation. It is about creating alignment between your vision and the desires of those around you. When you understand what motivates others, what they truly seek, you can lead them toward a shared goal. Influence, then, becomes an act of service. You guide others not for your own gain, but for the mutual benefit of all. It is said that the best leaders are those whose followers barely know they exist. When the work is done, the goal achieved, the people say, "We did it ourselves." This is the highest form of leadership, where influence is so subtle, so ingrained, that it feels like the natural course of events. Chapter 7. The Vision Beyond the Horizon, Leading for the Future. A leader without vision is like a general without a strategy, a wanderer lost in the battlefield of life. The greatest leaders did not rise to power by accident, nor did they stumble blindly into success. They saw the horizon before anyone else, and they knew that their actions today would carve the path for tomorrow. Vision, you see, is the quiet force that drives the most profound change. It is the ability to see not just what is, but what could be. In the chaos of battle, a wise general does not fix his gaze on the immediate clash of swords. He looks beyond the smoke, beyond the conflict, to the ultimate victory. He understands that every small decision contributes to a larger picture. So too must a leader have the foresight to see the ripple effects of every action taken. Consider the way a river flows. It winds through valleys and over rocks, never losing sight of its destination. Though obstacles arise, the river does not stop. It bends, adjusts, but always moves forward. This is the essence of vision, to be unwavering in your purpose, but flexible in your methods. Vision is not just about the grand goals you set, but the clarity with which you pursue them. It's about guiding others, not with empty promises, but with a direction so clear that they can see the future as you do. The leader who lacks vision may command for a moment, but the one with vision leaves a legacy that echoes through time. To lead for the future is to think beyond yourself. It is to plant the seeds of success, not just for your own harvest, but for the generations that will follow. Vision is the light that guides through darkness, the compass that keeps you steady amidst uncertainty.